Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of State, is not just anybody. He's someone with a great deal of power within the White House and, by extension, around the world. In the end, the decisions made in the United States affect all of us. Sometimes indirectly, sometimes economically, and sometimes socially. He insists that the UFO phenomenon deserves to be taken much more seriously. It seems sad. This is something no previous Secretary of State would ever have said that. A documentary is being prepared about the so-called era of disclosure, focused on everything related to coming revelations. He recently spoke on News Nation about UFOs. In an interview with Joe Kiel, high-profile interviews typically have pre-approved questions. It's rare for a prime minister, a secretary of state, a king, or any major figure to walk into a TV studio and be asked whatever the interviewer wants. So it's reasonable to assume that this question was intentionally crafted, and the answers as well. The topic was the presence of unidentified flying objects in U.S. airspace, particularly regarding UAP activity being discussed in Congress. Rubio said these objects are not ours. Specifically, he said there are unidentified objects flying over restricted and sensitive airspace, presumably military bases, power plants, and similar facilities, and confirmed that they do not belong to the United States. He added, that alone is enough reason to investigate this. He went on to say, frankly, my biggest fear is that some adversary has made a technological leap. This sounded like a kind of disclaimer, to avoid saying outright that the objects could come from space, from elsewhere, or that they might be known to some, but not to the public. He added that it would be extremely bad news if a foreign adversary had obtained such technology and was able to infiltrate sensitive U.S. airspace. It would catch them completely off guard. He also addressed people who have come forward about UFOs. For example, David Grush, who clearly stated that the U.S. government has been involved in a decades-long program to recover an attempt to replicate crashed UFOs, now called UAPND, claimed they had also found non-human biological materials. Grush said this occurred at the sites of certain crashes. Rubio responded by saying there are only two possibilities. Either what he says is true fully or partially, or we have very intelligent, highly trained individuals with high security clearances and key positions in government who are crazy and wasting our time. Either one or BS. A problem. He added that this issue is very difficult to evaluate because historically, it has carried a stigma. He asked, what incentive would people with such serious credentials have to make all of this up? In a way, he was giving Grush credibility. What motivation would he have to get himself into such a huge mess by lying? Even if Grush's claims are not entirely true, Rubio believes the matter must be investigated. These unidentified craft or objects moving around are essentially invisible threat objects, whose origin and purpose are unknown. The United States is beginning to address these issues at the highest level. Disclosure is progressing first through intelligence agencies, then through congressional committees, and finally through the White House itself, which is now opening the door. Even NASA's current administrator seems in favor of investigating this, and the SA is following along, saying they also need to investigate and search for answers to this newly acknowledged problem. It's well known that fighter jets have chased some of these objects, and, in certain cases, even launched missiles at them, as seen in some recordings where the missiles actually hit something. Another matter concerns the so-called UMMO communications. Recently, the UMMItes sent a message on what is now called X, formerly Twitter. According to their latest information, there are 14 of them in Antarctica and 12 in Oceania, though they did not specify where in Oceania. They could be in an underground base, somewhere in Australia, or anywhere in that vast region. In response to a question from UMMO asking why 14 of them remained in Antarctica and whether they could bring all their companions from Oceania expeditionary. I replied that their spacecraft remained in Antarctica, with 4 members, 2 of whom required medical attention in a hyperbaric-like environment. During the voyage from their planet to Earth, one of their ships suffered an incident involving one of its reactors, and 2 crew members were injured while trying to mitigate the malfunction. They added that for atmospheric excursions, they now operate 2 spherocylindrical craft, familiar tic-tac-shaped ones. These are similar to the well-known tic-tac UFOs. It is unknown whether these craft belonged to them, were left for them, or were brought to Earth long ago, especially since they traditionally traveled in their disc-shaped craft, known as Oe Oriwe-phonetic, approximations like those reportedly seen in San Jose de Valderas in the 1970s, with the famous H symbol underneath. Now they apparently have tic-tac craft. Who provided them? Are they theirs? Can they operate them freely? These are questions that have been asked. Additional questions have also been sent regarding Terasai Atlas, has some members insisted on asking what exactly 3i Atlas is. Whether they will respond remains to be seen. Their communications have become infrequent, practically one message every couple of months. They used to be much more talkative. And that is where the topic currently stands.